9 spine-chilling horror videos exposed. Terrifying secrets skeptics can't explain. The dim light of a flickering bulb cast eerie shadows on the walls of Sarah's home, the pulse of her average suburban neighborhood throbbing with the banality of everyday life. Yet, within the confines of her walls, a sinister melody unwound a creaking floorboard, whispers swirling in the suffocating darkness, cold fingers of dread creeping up her spine. She sat, breath held, listening. 2 a.m., the hour nightmares take shape. Was it just her mind playing tricks on her? Unease settled like a heavy shroud, her fatigue morphing into an unsettling fear. Outside, children's laughter chased daylight away, leaving an unsettling quiet in its wake. Yet, deep in Sarah's bones, she felt something she couldn't shake, the sensation of being watched. She brushed it off, attributing it to exhaustion from the fluorescent hum of her job as a cashier and the sleepless nights spent chasing after her spirited 6-year-old son, Tommy. But when she stumbled upon a Facebook group discussing inexplicable disappearances, shadows moving where they shouldn't, an icy wave of terror washed over her. This was just her imagination. In those initial days, shadows danced at the corners of her property, shapes that mimicked her family's strange rhythm, the echoes of their early morning routine twisted and tangled like a malevolent waltz. Panic clawed at her chest, and her heart thundered as she considered reaching out to Tom, the seasoned cop living next door. Until now, his sardonic approach had irritated her. Yet, desperate times called for desperate measures, and anxiety outweighed her pride. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. He raised an eyebrow as she recounted every harrowing detail, from the chilling shadows to the whispers lurking just beyond reach. Skepticism dripped from his lips, but his eyes flickered with uncertainty as they uncovered the town's dark history of secrecy, a clandestine society that hid behind warm smiles and picket fences. These were the very people who smiled at her, who lent her sugar or borrowed toys, yet a dread deepened. They were perhaps the very monsters woven into the fabric of her lives. Then came the unspeakable. Tommy's giggles filled the air, and she turned for just a moment, but that moment cost her. Tommy was gone. Stricken with fear, she dashed outside, calling his name into the night, panic clawing at her throat. The playground shadows shifted, mockery in their stillness, whispering all the things she hadn't yet pieced together. There among her neighbors, a familiar face stood, grinning too widely, eyes flashing like an omen of horror. A heartbeat thundered in her ears as sheer realization swooped in, lifting the veil of suburban security and unveiling something far more terrifying waiting to consume them. Shadows encroached closer, holding secrets Sarah was now determined to unearth. But would she find her son before the darkness consumed them both? The world swirled in a haze of panic as Sarah's voice rang out, desperate and raw. "Tommy, where are you?" Each echo twisted her heart, turning hope into a fuel for dread. She sprinted past the rows of neatly trimmed hedges, her mind racing as much as her feet. The shadows morphed around her, dark figures rising like specters from the ground, reaching out with unseen, clawed fingers. Every neighbor's window shone like a set of unblinking eyes, and behind those glass facades, silent watchers stirred. Did they hear her cries? Did they care? Her pulse surged, a wild drumbeat, pounding against the desperate walls of her chest. The laughter that had once filled these streets now morphed into icy silence, mocking her as she neared the playground. The swings squeaked faintly in the breeze, rhythmically swaying, but no boyish laughter accompanied them. She dug her nails into her palms, the sting grounding her in the terror. It wasn't just about Tommy anymore. It was the insidious threat lurking beneath the surface, the hushed tone of something she now understood was very wrong in her seemingly perfect neighborhood. Every step felt like a gamble. Was she running towards or away from danger? The flickering streetlights buzzed ominously above her, casting grotesque shadows that twisted her surroundings into nightmarish forms. And just as the thought of retreat flashed through her mind, that sinister grin reappeared in her mind's eye, leaching confidence from her veins. Was one of her own friends responsible for this darkness? Was it Tom? Then, in the thickening silence, another sound emerged, a single, chilling giggle. Sarah froze, her heart constricting painfully. "Tommy?" she called, her voice wavering. But as she turned slowly, dread slid down her spine like icy water. There, beyond the lingering shadows of the swings, a small silhouette emerged, stepping out of the darkness like a lost fragment of a dream. "Mommy!" Tommy cried, a bright smile breaking through the starlit void. Relief washed over her momentarily, but it was soon swallowed by edginess creeping back. The laughter died instantly when he came closer. It was vibrant, sure, but his eyes more animated than ever felt vacant and hollow, like dark wells devoid of warmth. "Tommy, baby, where were you?" His head tilted, an almost unnatural motion, the grin still plastered wide across his features. "They wanted to play with me." His voice danced lightly, devoid of the innocence she once cherished. "Who, Tommy? Who wanted to play?" The shadows seemed to gather closer, the breeze whispering secrets past her, taunting her with what she might not want to know. He pointed toward their neighbors' houses, his eyes shining in the dark. "You know, the grown-ups. They said we can have fun too." A chill seized her. Parental instincts roared to life, tightening around her like a noose. "No, we cannot stay here. We need to go home." But even as she spoke the words, she felt the heavy weight of 100 eyes watching them, the vacant stares of the other parents melting into one another, almost melding into the darkness of the night. Tommy took a step closer to her, his innocent smile twisting into something hollow. "But Mommy, I don't want to leave. They have games for us, and they promised." She felt her legs weaken with the reality that loomed like a specter between them, sucking around them like a black hole. Sarah's mind raced with every horrifying possibility, and still, shadows swirled, mesmerizing her son, beckoning him to their grasp. With a jolt, she reached out, grabbing his wrist. "No! We have to go now." She turned, bolting back towards the street, dragging Tommy with her, but the world felt different. The shadows that had once danced at the edge now seemed to seep from the walls themselves, wrapping around her ankles, intent on holding her back. And then she heard it, a low murmur rising, distinctly human, but eerily unsettling. "Join us," it whispered, a chorus of sweet promises borne on the wind, weaving through the air like some sick lullaby. As she ran, Sarah's breath came quick and shallow. Visions of smiling neighbors haunted her, and she couldn't shake the fear that Tommy was slipping away, further from her grasp, deeper into their grip. Out of sight, but never out of mind. But what lay ahead? Did escape still linger on the horizon, or had she already crossed a threshold from which there could be no return? The darkness clawed at her, but in that moment of panic, she clutched her son tighter, refusing to let go. Yet, darkness breathed behind her, and it could taste her fear. The sound grew louder, saturating the air like poison, the echoes of a laughter that wasn't just Tommy's. What had she really unleashed? The world felt closing in. Each footfall echoed with trepidation, the shadows whispering promises that clawed at her ears. Tommy's hand felt small and fragile in her grasp as they darted past the ghostly playground. Though the playground loomed behind them like a haunted sentinel, she was dimly aware of other houses they closed in around them, unyielding and silent. "Please, let us just go home," she panted, desperation spilling from her voice. Tommy stopped, jerking her to a halt. "But Mommy, they said there's no time for games," she snapped, glancing behind, heart thundering. The shadows were slinking along, gaining ground like a dark tide. The silence pressed down on her, thick and choking. She looked into Tommy's eyes, once vibrant, and now shrouded in an unsettling glaze. "You have to listen to me," she implored. "We have to get away." But Tommy merely tilted his head again, a disconcerting resemblance to the ones they had run from. "They want to play, they'll be mad if we don't." The wind shifted, carrying laughter. No, it was a giggle, a light sound twinned with a chilling dread. Sarah's skin crawled. Could they be watching? Tommy. All tenderness evaporated as fear surged. "You have to run." In a flash, she yanked him forward, bolting down the street, frenzy fueling her flight. They flashed past the dimly lit houses, their stark windows glimmering, housing inexplicable shadows that danced inside. One window cracked open, and she heard a voice. "You can't run forever, Sarah." A chill raced down her spine. She recognized it, Mrs. Jenkins, her neighbor, the woman who always had cookies waiting. But this voice was different. There was an edge, something dark lurking beneath familiarity. "Mommy!" Tommy cried, alarm igniting his voice. He stumbled, nearly tearing free of her grasp. But she tightened her grip, her heart locking into that parental fight-or-flight mode. "No!" she shouted, pushing the thought away. "We're getting out of here." But doubt clawed at her. What had Tommy meant? What had he seen? She dared a glance over her shoulder again. The neighborhood swirled behind them, undulating shadows weaving in and out a chase through the fabric of their lives. Before she could respond, a growl, deep and primal, rumbled from the darkness ahead. The streetlights flickered, as if the entire neighborhood shuddered in fear. Barely illuminated by the dim glow, a figure coalesced at the end of the road, a towering silhouette warped by shadows. It loomed over them, features indistinct but eerily familiar. "Oh no," Sarah murmured, backing up instinctively as Tommy gripped her thigh. "Mommy, it's them," he stuttered, pointing ahead and quivering. At once, Sarah felt every cruel gaze train upon her, the swarm growing palpable as whispers began to rise again, swirling like a storm. "Join us," the voices hummed, a cacophony of familiarity, the lost assurance of childhood now twisting into something horrific. Breath caught, Sarah's mind spun in terror. "Tommy, please, we have to move." The figure stepped forward, the shadows around it swirling menacingly, as if the darkness was alive, a beast ready to pounce. Desperation quickly turned into raw fear that coursed through her veins. Suddenly, Tommy broke free from her hold. "Mommy! I'm going to play!" "Tommy! No!" she screamed, lunging forward in a swift instinct. But the shadows stretched eagerly, snaking around Tommy, tugging him closer to their dark realm. "They want me!" he shouted, excitement spilling into his tone, almost like a warped echo of innocence. Panic surged through Sarah's chest. "Get back, Tommy!" Her heart raced as she dove toward her son, but the darkness consumed everything, swallowing her screams and dimming the world around her. What could resist such an insatiable force? Did escaping this trap mean losing Tommy forever? And in that moment of shock, she understood. The shadows didn't just want Tommy. They wanted her too. The laughter echoed in her ears, overwhelming, dragging her back as dark tendrils wound around her ankles. As the walls of their world crumbled, the crossroads loomed a choice. Between saving herself or her son. Which fate would she embrace? With darkness closing in, their smiles nearly indistinguishable, she faced an even deeper terror than she anticipated. The choice they would make next could define everything, but what if she was too late? Would she be able to save Tommy, or would she be forced to join the darkness? The darkness tightened its grip, a suffocating blanket swirling around Sarah. She fought against it, her heart pounding like a war drum, each beat echoing the desperation rising within her. Tommy's laughter mixed with the whispers of the shadows, and it chilled her to the bone. "Tommy, please," she gasped, trying to pull him back. The shadows writhed, their sinister dance eager to claim him, drawing him further into their embrace. She felt the weight of the world pressing down on her, and every moment stretched into an eternity. The air crackled with malice. "Join us, Sarah." The voice of Mrs. Jenkins echoed again, but not quite right. It was a mockery of affection, an invitation bearing teeth. "Tommy!" she screamed, her voice splintering under the pressure of fear. She surged forward, grasping for her son, but the shadows conspired, pulling her back with a force she couldn't comprehend. Suddenly, she heard something, a deep rattle of laughter mingled with screams, a chorus of anguished joy that twisted her stomach into knots. It was like the entire neighborhood had come alive, but it was different. Distorted. "Mommy! They're my friends!" Tommy shouted, swinging his arms with reckless abandon, smiling as if ensnared in a dream. "No! They're not your friends!" she cried, panic gripping her throat like a vice. As she lunged forward, the shadows released Tommy's arms momentarily, but only to pull him back from her grasp. They swirled and grew, dark forms clawing at her, taunting her with their hunger. "Come play with us!" The voices skittered, slithering through the night like serpents. Other children's laughter, the kind that once brought joy, now drifted like a cruel wind, whispery and sinister. "Get away from him!" Sarah shouted, pure desperation surging through her veins. She felt the shadows coil around her legs, the cold creeping upward, threatening to engulf her. The warmth of her son was slipping away, and fear melded with dark intuition. This was no ordinary game. With a primal scream, she tore at the shadows holding her. They flickered and flared, revealing glimpses of faces familiar, yet distorted. Neighbors, children from the playground, all twisted into grotesque parodies. Each face held an understanding that chilled her, eyes wide and hungry for connection. "Why won't you join us?" they chorused, their tone teasing, mocking. "We can have so much fun together." "No!" she shrieked, lunging again, but no matter how she fought, they eluded her, ensnaring her spirit with their lies. She had to fight, she had to reach him. The bond of mother and child almost seemed to pulse in the air, straining against the dark. "Tommy!" His face momentarily broke through the haze, a flickering flame in the suffocating dark. "Mommy, please! They want us to play!" he yelled, his joy infuriating her, igniting her resolve. "Listen to me!" she pleaded, scrambling forward even as more shadows converged on her. "They're lying! They're using you!" The laughter crescendoed, drowning out her words. They were a tide, an overwhelming force dragging her under, clawing at her sanity. In that moment, a shard of clarity sliced through the chaos, something unsettling just beneath the surface. Tommy slumped briefly, an odd flicker of doubt crossing his face. "Mommy?" he whispered, a tinge of fear threading through his voice. But then, someone else whispered in his ear, one of the shadows, supple and sly. "Come play with us, dear Tommy." Sarah's heart raced. This was a twisted game, a manipulation of innocence. "Fight it, Tommy. Please fight it," she screamed, reaching but finding no solid ground. "Join us," echoed the terrifyingly sweet voices. Time spun feverishly. Tommy's expression shifted, his small body torn between the two worlds, the shadow and the light. As darkness closed in around them, Sarah felt the tenuous threads of hope fray and twist. Would she succumb to the darkness, or could her love break through the veil? The shadows grew thicker, the laughter more sinister, and just as hope flickered one last time, they began to advance, stretching toward her in an unstoppable wave. What would happen next in the battle for her son's soul? The answer lay on the edge of the abyss, waiting in the dark. The shadows surged forward, swallowing everything in their path. Each brush against Sarah felt like icy fingers probing her soul, seeking to drain her will. She could barely breathe, the air thick with terror. "Tommy!" she howled, reaching for him as he began to fade. His laughter morphed, twisted into shrieks that echoed ominously in the suffocating dark. The corners of her vision twisted, these shadows alive and writhing, morphing into figures that beckoned. They were no longer just children. They were nightmares made flesh. "Join us," they sang, their voices a sickly sweet melody that pounded in her chest. It was a siren song laced with deception, and it tugged at the core of her being. Suddenly, the world around her began to change. The familiar streetlights flickered and dimmed, the houses warped into grotesque shapes, like jagged teeth yearning for a meal. Shadows crawled up the exteriors of the houses, dark tendrils intertwining with the very fabric of her neighborhood. "Tommy, I love you!" she screamed, desperation clawing at her throat. "Don't listen to them." The little boy turned, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. "But they're so much fun, Mommy, no." Panic surged within her again, raw and visceral. Time seemed to stretch, her heart drumming in a frantic rhythm. Suddenly, she saw him, the old man, Mr. Smith, once so inviting, now twisted into a leering version of himself. "Why fight it?" he sneered, stepping nearer, shadows swirling around his feet. "Embrace the darkness. It's much more thrilling." "Stop! Get away from him!" Sarah yelled, but her voice was devoured by their laughter. The waves of shadows shifted, yearning to claim her, eager to pull Tommy into their terrifying embrace. "Play with us, Sarah!" Mrs. Jenkins chimed in, her voice deceptively gentle, echoing through the night. A part of Sarah wanted to reach out, to give in. But she fought back. Behind her a roar of desperation and love surged. "Fight, Tommy! You're stronger than this!" Abruptly, the joyful laughter turned into a cacophony of cries. The shadows swirled, lost in a frenzied dance, each form an echo of lost souls, reaching for her child. She could feel more than hear the tension forming, a web of desperation tightening around them both. Tommy's eyes narrowed, internal confusion painting his innocent face. "Mommy, it hurts," he rasped, a glimmer of fear breaking through the darkness. "Hold on, baby. Hold on to me," she cried, stretching out her arm as if her love could bridge the chasm forming between them. But as she reached, darkness coiled around her limbs, chilling and insistent. The laughter intensified, a haunting melody, beckoning her to join the others, to give in to the night. "Join us in the fun!" they weaved in unison. "No!" Sarah screamed, summoning every ounce of strength left in her. The shadows recoiled slightly, hesitating. In that precarious moment, something deep within her stirred. A memory's silly games in parks, bright summer days, the innocent giggle of her son. "Remember the swing set? We'll swing high into the sky," she shouted, desperate words spilling from her lips like lifelines. A flicker of recognition crossed Tommy's face, a small spark igniting against the encroaching dark. "Mommy!" he cried, as shadows gripped him tighter, but she could see it, a glimmer, hope glistening in his fearful eyes. It was there, just behind the surface, fighting against the night. Fueled by her own fear and love, she lunged again, pushing against the tangible terror attempting to consume her. But then she felt it, a sudden heat, a flickering light that burst forth around them. It cast shadows back momentarily, illuminating the terrified faces around her, showing their true forms, lost children, imprisoned spirits grasping for release. "It's not too late," she yelled, not just to Tommy but to everyone. "Fight it! Find your light!" As other faces emerged from the darkness, there was a shift, a whisper of hope. But would it be enough? Would the light be strong enough to save them before the darkness consumed all? The shadows screamed, their voices an anguished storm, and just as Sarah felt herself being pulled into the whirlwind of despair, a flicker of resolve shone brighter. What lay ahead was uncertain, but the darkness was hungry, and time was slipping through her fingers like grains of sand. Could they escape before being swept away? The answer was waiting, clawing at her resolve, eager to see whose heart was left untouched. The light flickered, a heartbeat against the tide of shadows. Sarah felt it, the warmth, the shimmering hope, like a thin thread pulled tight. She looked at Tommy, fear etching deeper lines into his innocent face, and she knew she had to fight. "Close your eyes, baby," she yelled, scrambling to reach him. Each step felt like wading through molasses as darkness clawed at her legs, an insistent weight pulling her down. Just as she grasped Tommy's hand, ice shot through her veins, a chill she couldn't shake. "Mommy, I don't want to be scared anymore," Tommy cried, his voice muffled in the dim chaos. "Neither do I. But we have each other." She could feel the shadows biting into her skin, the whispers growing louder, wrapping them both in a sticky shroud of terror. "Let us play," the lost souls chorused, laughing through gritted teeth, each note dripped in malice. "Stop it!" Sarah screamed. Each childlike laugh felt like nails on a chalkboard. She squeezed Tommy's hand harder, but the shadows twisted around him, constricting, squeezing tighter, trying to pull him away. "Mommy, help!" His voice trembled, and an urgent panic surged in her. How could she save him? Her heart raced, visions of their life together flashing before her, a montage of laughter and light. Swinging on the swing set, sticky hands after ice cream, bedtime stories told with silly voices. That warmth had to mean something, had to protect them. "Look at me, Tommy." She steadied her voice, forcing a calm she didn't feel. "Look at the light. Remember the summer days, the laughter?" The boy's eyes darted around, flickering between fear and longing. The shadows pressed closer, dark, swirling figures swaying like a drowned heartbeat. "But Mommy, the shadows are fun, they play with me." "No. They're lying. They're not your friends." Her words bounced off of the swirling mass, but she couldn't back down. "Fight them. Be brave, just like we practiced. We'll escape together." With a surge of determination, she called upon every ounce of strength. The warmth around them flickered, a tiny flame desperately trying to grow. "Imagine the sun, Tommy. Picture it bright and warm." A moment of hesitation washed over his features as the shadows continued to laugh, eager to drag them into oblivion. "What is the sun?" A whisper threaded through the darkness, probing, teasing. "It's beautiful," Sarah pressed, audibly straining. "It's hope. It's everything we love." In a sudden burst of defiance, Tommy's eyes narrowed. "I want the sun." That single declaration was like a stone thrown into still water. The shadows paused, their laughter fading into a crescendo of confusion. Sarah felt it, the tide shifting an inch forward into the light. "We can take it," she urged, and with a deep breath, she and Tommy raised their arms together. "Let us shine." And the darkness roared, an anguished howl that twisted the air around them, a tempest of fury. As warm light erupted from their hands, shadows screeched, torn between reluctance and need. They shuddered, writhing like a wounded beast. But it wasn't enough. The darkness fought back, sickly tendrils curling, trying to weave into the light, hungry to extinguish it. "Keep going," Sarah shouted, her voice fueled by desperation. "Keep the light alive, Tommy. Feel it." He squeezed her hand, nodding fiercely, a child's determination weaving through the despair. The light pulsed in rhythm with their hearts, a warm glow growing brighter with every ounce of belief they threw into it. But Sarah felt the shadows begin to gain ground, inching closer, claws stretching for purchase. She could sense their hunger, and panic surged anew. No! This can't end. We won't let it take us. As the shadows charged forward, their collective wailing shaking the ground beneath them, a question pierced through Sarah's mind. Would their light last, or would they all be consumed, lost in the night forever? The darkness shrieked again, and just then, she saw it a way out. But was it the light, or another deception hiding in plain sight? In that fragile moment of choice, would they dare risk it all to find the truth? The light pulsed, illuminating the corners of their entwined shadows, but it wasn't fighting alone anymore. A flicker of something new sparked in the depths of Sarah's memory, a tune, an echo from summer nights spent outside. "Sing, Tommy," she urged, desperation lining her voice. "Sing the sun song." The boy inhaled sharply, the fear in his eyes still raw, but he found the strength to join her. "Sunshine, sunshine, come out and play." His voice trembled but rang with a sweet innocence that sliced through the murky gloom. Suddenly, the shadows paused, their movement halting as they recoiled, as if the song had pricked their dark skin. "Keep singing," Sarah shouted over the rising wails of the nightmarish figures. "Don't stop. We have to keep the light alive." The shadows twisted and curled, long fingers reaching toward them, desperate to snuff out their fragile glow. But the melody strung like a lifeline between them, the chorus encasing them every note a defiance against despair. "Bring the sun to brighten our day." Tommy joined in, his voice stronger now, almost carefree. The darkness shrieked, a furious symphony of rage. "Silence! You cannot escape." The wind twisted around them, forcing the notes to fight their way through the oppressive dread, chilling Sarah to the bone. But then something shifted. The ground beneath them shook violently, cracking open like the mouth of a predator hungry for prey. Sarah's heart leapt. The golden glow fluttered, flickering like a candle in a gusty storm, but it was alive, beating like their shared rhythm. "Mommy, I can feel it!" Tommy exclaimed. "It's working." "Just a little more," she panted, feeling the exhaustion creeping into her limbs. They weren't safe yet. She glanced around and saw forms breaking through the cracks. Hideous faces emerged, twisted in agonized rapture, flowers blooming from the soil of nightmares. Whispers slithered, cold and sibilant, brushing against her skin. "Join us," Sarah joined the dance. They chanted in eerie harmony, their voices dripping with seduction, drawing closer. Tentacle-like shadows reached out, wrapping around Tommy's ankles like serpents. Each caress chilled her, a grasp that promised to drown them both in darkness. "No!" she roared, lunging at the nearest tendril, her fingers brushing its icy surface. The darkness recoiled, but there were too many. "Fight back, Tommy." "Please." "I'm scared." Her heart fractured at the sound of his small voice, the tears flooding her eyes. "You're brave. You're my son. Remember our laughter, hold on to it." Tommy's little face lit with resolve. "I'm not scared," he declared, and somehow, Sarah felt the tremor of his voice steadying hers. Together, they held on to the warmth, channeling every summer memory, the swings, the ice cream cone, the sweet serenade of endless evenings. The shadows shrieked again, blending into a cacophony of torment. A dark vortex formed above them, churning ominously, whispering promises of a world where fear danced freely. "Come, little Tommy, we will play forever." "No! You're not my friends!" Tommy screamed, the resistance in his voice rising like their light. "You're just darkness." That fiery declaration sent a shockwave through the darkness. It recoiled, shadows writhing, the vastness of night lashing at the edges of their fledgling hope. Sarah felt a surge of energy rise within her, fueled by Tommy's courage. "Together!" she shouted, their voices latching onto the air, lifting the weight crushing down upon them. "We are the light. We shine brightest in the dark." But with that surge came the dread realization. The shadows were learning, adapting. They spiraled tighter, the ground beneath them rumbling a challenge, a threat. Would the light they summoned be powerful enough to push back this relentless night? As the vortex howled in fury, a blinding flash erupted from their hands, illuminating the inky mass. But in the radiant chaos, a shadow crept forward, a figure emerging from the abyss, inexorably drawn toward them. "Tommy, no!" Sarah gasped, as the figure unveiled itself, eyes like black pits, a grin far too wide. What did it want? In that moment, uncertainty clawed at her heart as they both stared at the chilling embodiment of darkness. It was over. The echoes of lost souls sung louder than ever around them, and just as the light seemed about to swallow the creature whole, it raised a hand, a gesture that sent shivers of dread deep into Sarah's soul. What was it planning? Would they escape, or were they destined to join the ranks of those who danced in the dark forever? The air grew thick, suffocating, as the figure stepped closer. Sarah could barely breathe. Those eyes, so intent, seemed to bore into her very soul. The shadows around them swirled anxiously, reacting to the presence of this ominous entity. An electric tension hummed in the air, wrapping around them tighter than any embrace. "Fear not, children," the figure crooned, its voice a smooth whisper laced with malice. "You are not alone." The flickering light dimmed in response to its words, like a candle threatened by wind. Tommy squeezed Sarah's hand, but she felt his small frame trembling against her. "Mommy, I don't like it," he whispered, his youthful bravado slipping. "I know, darling, I know," she replied, voice cracking. They had come so far, and yet here they stood, on the precipice of defeat. The figure tilted its head, the eerie grin widening until it became grotesque. "You fought bravely, but what you resist is destined for you. Join me, and we can share eternal joy." The shadows danced closer, their whispers thickening into a sinister chorus, wrapping around her in a shroud of despair. "Be free, Sarah. Surrender. The truth is light cannot exist without dark." "No!" she shouted against the suffocating shadows. "We won't give in." With each word, she could feel the inner strength build, a warm glow igniting in her heart, fighting against the grip of the shadows. She clutched Tommy's hand tighter, focusing on their song. "Tommy, sing! Keep our light alive. Sunshine, sunshine, come out and play." Tommy's voice rang out, wavering but determined. As the melody rose, a fierce light flickered to life between them, pushing against the darkness, desperately clawing its way back. But the shadowy figure stepped forth, its hand rising ominously. "Your light will falter. The shadows are many, and how you will drown beneath their weight." Sarah felt a hollow ache as those words sank in. The vortex raged above them, swallowing all hope, flinging fragments of despair like stars dying in the night sky. She gasped as the shadows lunged forward, seeking to snuff out the brilliance of their song. "Tommy!" she cried out, pulling him behind her as the darkness surged. Together, they focused on the warmth of their memories, the laughter, the love, the sweet freedom of summer nights. The light between them pulsed brighter, illuminating the fading shapes. The shadows shrieked, a symphony of agony and wrath, retreating momentarily. But it was not enough. From the depths, tendrils of darkness snaked around them, cold and relentless, pulling at their strength. "Join us," they hissed. "Embrace your fate." "Never," Tommy shouted, voice defiant, his small frame anchored by her presence. Their song transformed in a moment of desperation, morphing into something raw, something primal. "We are the light. We fight." The vortex began to swirl in protest, its edges tearing apart in the face of their unity. But it was only a momentary reprieve. The figure, unyielding, raised its hand again, and in that quiet moment, Sarah saw it, a fleeting glimpse of the world beyond, a vision of freedom. It flickered like the light they summoned, vulnerable yet promising. "Mommy, look!" Tommy pointed, eyes wide with wonder. Somewhere in the chaos, a crack, a fissure, something real and tangible emerged. Hope, glimmering even in the darkest hour. But the figure was unfazed, eyes narrowing. "You cannot escape destiny. You belong to me now." Sarah's heart raced, pulse pounding as shadows surged closer, the shrieks suffocating the last remnants of their song. She felt the pull, the cold tendrils tightening around her and Tommy. Time seemed to slow, the world narrowing into focus. "Tommy, hold on to the light!" she screamed, the words breaking from her. As they clung to each other, the reality set and they were on the brink. Suddenly, the creature lunged, and with a burst of unexpected force, they hurtled backward as the ground roared open beneath them, a gaping maw threatening to swallow them whole. Their song shattered as they fell. What lay beneath? Would they find salvation or something worse? Despair clenched Sarah's heart as the chasm opened wider, pulling them deeper into the unknown shadows. In those terrifying seconds, one question burned in her mind. Would they ever see the light again? The darkness engulfed them, wrapping around Sarah and Tommy like a suffocating blanket. As they fell, time unraveled into an endless spiral of chaos, the sound of rushing air dulling the screams of their thoughts. With every heartbeat, the shadows whispered promises, false hopes woven through their despair. "You can't fight what you are," they taunted in a choir of despair. "You will belong to us." Sarah's chest tightened, fear clawed at her throat. She had always been the protector, the one who shielded Tommy from nightmares. But now, she felt the reservoir of her strength waning. "Hold on tight, Tommy!" she shouted, her voice ringing out against the impending darkness, drowning in fear. When their bodies finally collided with the ground, it was like hitting a surface made of liquid night. The impact was absorbed by the shadows that churned beneath them, cushioning them in a macabre embrace. They found themselves in a cavern, the walls slick with moisture that glistened like the mournful glances of lost souls. "Mommy?" Tommy's voice trembled, pulling at Sarah's heart with an intensity that twisted her insides. "Where are we?" The air was colder here, heavy with a strange, sickening sweetness that made Sarah's stomach turn. "We'll find a way out," she lied, trying to project confidence. But then, from the damp walls, shapes began to unfurl tentacles of darkness, slithering and reaching toward them. Each appendage moved with a life of its own, twisting and curling, seeking prey in the form of lost hope. "Don't let go of my hand," she urged, her grip on Tommy tightening as she scanned the cavern. It felt alive, feeding off their terror, vibrating with a sinister pulse. "Mommy!" Tommy cried as a tendril brushed against his ankle, icy and sentient. It wrapped around him, testing the limits of their bond. In desperation, Sarah yanked him free. She felt the walls disintegrating into whispers around them. "Leave behind the light, Sarah. Embrace the shadows. Together, we're stronger." "No!" she screamed, angry and defiant. Her voice echoed, reverb stretching through the walls. "I will not succumb." The shadows surged, hissing in displeasure. But the warmth inside her, a flicker of the love for her son, spoke louder. She felt it bubble up, bursting into life. "We are the light. We fight!" she shouted once more, bringing forth the melody they had once sung. Tommy joined in, his voice small yet vibrant, and the notes transcended the dark. The shadows shrieked, recoiling as they harmonized their strength. The cavern around them began to tremble, the oppressive weight of darkness faltering. Just then, a fissure opened above a crack against the night sky. A radiant beam spilled through, illuminating their faces with the purest white light. "Mommy!" "The light!" Tommy pointed, hope sparking in his wide eyes. But before they could reach it, the shadows lashed back, gathering momentum, fury bubbling beneath the surface. "You cannot escape!" they howled, converging into a dark mass. Run! Sarah yelled, pulling Tommy closer as they pounded toward the light, racing against time. The shadows thrashed around them, clawing, seeking to reclaim what they felt was theirs. Just as they reached the fissure, a tendril wrapped around Sarah's leg, jerking her back forcefully. She tumbled to the ground, panting, desperately clawing towards her son. "Mommy!" Scream echoed in her ears, mingling with the shrieks of the shadows. The light was so close, but she felt the cold grip of despair tightening around her heart, another tendril encircling her other ankle. "No! Tommy, go!" she shouted, straining against the force that bound her. "Get to the light." Tears blurring her vision, she watched as the fissure began to shrink, its brilliance flickering. Tommy hesitated, innocent resolve battling with terror. "I want to leave you." "Run!" she begged, panic flooding in. Just as the shadows lunged, the last glimmer of light disappearing above, Sarah braced herself, ready to fight. Her heart raced a blend of fear and strength. What came next was the hardest choice she'd ever make, one that could alter everything. Would they both be devoured by the darkness, or would one of them emerge into the light? The shadows closed in on Sarah like a relentless tide, their icy tendrils creeping up her legs, clawing for purchase as she fought to stay grounded. "You can't take him!" she screamed, her fury igniting a fire within. "You want to take either of us!" Tommy's face, a brief flicker of light through the gloom, was etched with terror and determination. "Mommy! I can't leave you!" His small hands trembled at his sides, the innocence she had fought for seemingly slipping away like grains of sand in an hourglass. "Focus on the light," she urged, the warmth that had been their beacon piercing through the enveloping blackness, clashing with the cacophony surrounding them. "We're stronger together." The shadows recoiled as her words reached a fever pitch, a sound that reverberated through the cavern and momentarily scattered their grasping forms. "Sing with me," Sarah commanded, her voice breaking through the din of fierce mantra alongside her son's. They joined together, singing as they had before, the simple, joyous chorus of summer days painting the darkness with bright memories. "Sunshine, sunshine, come out and play," echoed into the hollow chamber, wrapping around them like a buoy tethering them to the surface. But as they sang, the shadows writhed, furious at having their grip weakened. "Silence!" they hissed, a deafening scream, but laced with fear. The shadows undulated and twisted, morphing into familiar faces of neighbors, each one contorting into a grotesque mimicry of the kindness they had shown before. "You cannot escape, Sarah. You belong here forever." "No!" she roared, summoning every ounce of love for her son, every precious moment that had led them here. "You don't understand. Love is stronger than any darkness." In an instant, the shadows surged forth, rushing toward her, closing in like a storm ready to engulf them both. With a heart-stopping intensity, she felt the last vestiges of light flicker. Tommy was pulled tight against her side, their bond felt like an iron chain, unyielding despite the weight of despair. "Hold on," Sarah cried. And with that, she reached deep within, searching for every warm memory, every laugh shared, every moment of joy surrounding Tommy. Imagine jumping on the trampoline, playing in the sun. Tommy's eyes lit up, a spark glimmering amidst the shadows creeping in. "I remember," he exclaimed, the memories brightening his face, pushing back the coldness. "I want the sunshine." "Then let us fight for it," she screamed, desperation and hope intertwining in her voice. They pushed against the shadows together, their bodies weaving light and dark, the pull intensifying as they sang louder. The shadows shrieked in agony, twisting grotesquely as if they were trapped in a cyclone, but their grip was strong. And then in an electric moment a shimmering light burst from their joined hands, a radiant beam that cut through the chaotic darkness like a lighthouse cutting through a storm. "Now, sweetheart, let it shine." Fueled by their combined will, the light exploded outward, engulfing the dark in a cascading wave of warmth. The air shimmered around them, pulsating with life, the shadows recoiling as if burned. They screamed and writhed, feral with rage and despair, their hopes extinguished one by one as the boy and his mother united their strength. "Tommy!" Sarah shouted, their song soaring to heights unknown. "Sing it with me! Sunshine, sunshine, come out and play!" With one final surge, they pushed against the tide, a radiant shockwave of defiance that surged through the cavern like a comet breaking free from the night. The shadows screamed, but the light enveloped them, an armory of love conquering darkness. Suddenly, it all crumbled. The cavern began to shake, disintegrating before their very eyes, as the shadows vanished like mist in the dawn. The fissure above widened, the blinding light spilling over them, driving the dark into the forgotten crevices of oblivion. "Together, Tommy!" she called as the light drew them upward in a warm embrace. As they rocketed into the brightness, she held him tight, the warmth enveloping them like the embrace of an afternoon sun. The world spun into clarity, and in that golden glow, she felt the weight of fear unfurl as they emerged from the darkness. They landed breathlessly in their backyard, the stars twinkling overhead, brilliant against the shadowy veil of night. Around them, the world felt whole again, filled with laughter, the hum of crickets, and the warm embrace of the familiar. Tommy turned to his mother, the light gleaming in his innocent eyes. "We did it!" His smile lit up her heart, pure joy shining brightly from within him, illuminating everything in its path. "Yes, we did," she replied, tears shimmering on her cheeks, relief flooding through her veins. And as they hugged tightly beneath the twinkling stars, she felt their bond strengthened, carved anew from the battle they fought together. They truly were the light, an unyielding force of love amidst an unpredictable world. Together they had conquered the darkness. Now, as they looked at one another, she understood. There would always be challenges, but their love would always light the way. They had faced the abyss, and emerged victorious, stronger than ever. "Let us go play," Tommy chirped, tugging her hand, the innocence restored. "Let us go," Sarah whispered, the warmth rising in her chest. The night was no longer a threat, but an endless canvas on which to paint new dreams, a testament to their unbreakable spirit. And finally, as they stepped back into their world, Sarah felt hope shining brighter than ever. Now, if you enjoyed this wild adventure, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling ending. Share what you think it all means. And for real, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Get clicking.